In 1519, Hernan Cortez made a decision that would echo through history. Upon landing on the shores of the New World, he faced impossible odds. Outnumbered and surrounded by uncertainty, he gave an audacious order: burn the ships. With no way to retreat, his men had one choice: fight to succeed or die trying. And they did succeed. Cortez's story isn't just about conquest, it's about commitment. It's about making bold decisions, eliminating excuses, and going all in on your vision. Welcome to Burning the Ships, the podcast where we explore what it means to take risks, push boundaries, and refuse to look back. I'm Jason Seward, your host, and each episode we'll share stories, strategies, and insights to help you tackle your challenges head on, overcome obstacles, and make your own history. This is Burning the Ships. Let's get started. Welcome to Burning the Ships Weekly Ramble, and I'm your host, Jason Seward. And today I'm going to cover an idea, but it's also a book or an exercise book that's called StrengthsFinders. And I'm going to talk about myself, like when I read that book and when I did. It's kind of like you go through a series of exercises to identify your strengths, and then the book kind of talks about leaning into those strengths and things like that. So I'm going to kind of give my own perspective and version of that. But before I get things kicked off, I'm going to give JJ's joke of the week. So this week we have, all right, what dinosaur would have been the worst driver? Tyrannosaurus Rex. And that is JJ's joke of the week. So he keeps them coming strong. But this week I'm going to talk about, and I've got to be pretty quick with this episode, just with some time constraints I have. So this one will be a shorter one, which probably will be to the benefit of the listeners, instead of me rambling on so long like I usually do. But back when in my former career, when I became a manager, so when I started in management, sales management, I think it was around 2012. So at the time I had strictly, for the 6 or so years prior to that, I was strictly in sales. So I sold a bunch of different insurance products, but I didn't lead any teams, other than kind of not being their direct supervisor, but being, the agent in my particular office and having staff. I kind of was a leader to them, but I wasn't their direct supervisor. But in 2012, I became a sales manager in the company I worked for. And I had a very small team at that time. I think I was managing 3 or 4 offices, probably 5 sales agents, and then all the staff in those offices. So altogether, probably 10, 12, 15 people at max. But I was responsible for supervising, managing them, making sure they hit all of their metrics and do their job appropriately, and then also motivate them. It's a sales job, sales management. So we were, trying to achieve big numbers and goals and things like that. Well, I had this mentality when I went into management, and at this time, I was relatively young, being a manager with the company I was in. So to put that in perspective, I think I was 30 years old, maybe 31, when I became, a sales manager with that company. And other than one person, so I think I might have the numbers not exactly right, but I think right out of the gate I was managing like 12 people. Only one of those people that I was managing was younger than me. Everybody else was a good bit older than me, in their 40s and even 50s. Some of these people had been with the company for 30 plus years, and now here this young kid comes as their manager. So I came in hot and heavy. I had all these ideas and motivation tactics and strategies I was trying. But one thing I arrogantly thought, and this was incorrect, and I know this now, and I'm going to talk more about it here in a little bit, but I thought, I had this mindset that I could take any individual that I was leading, and through motivation and through coaching and all of that, I could lift up their weaknesses, right? So when I came in to managing all these people, we would sit down and kind of go over everything they were struggling with and areas that they were weak in. And I would spend 80% of my time trying to lift those areas up. And I wasn't getting great results. And it was pretty frustrating. Well, about, I'd say 2 years later, so now we're 2014. At this point, I am managing a different team. I got promoted, if you will, kind of, but I just got moved to a different and larger territory. So at this point, I've got quite a few people under me, or that I'm leading. And the human resources department they gave out these books. Again, it's called StrengthsFinders. There's like StrengthsFinder 1.0, 2.0, and stuff like that. But it was kind of an exercise booklet. Everybody can look it up. But that puts you through a series of questions to identify what you're strong in, right? And then the main premise of the book was to then take those strengths and double down on them, right? As leaders, spend more time trying to lift up the areas that folks are strong at, and then less time trying to fix all their weaknesses, right? And that was the general, I mean, it goes into a lot more detail than that, but that was the general mindset. So after going through all that and thinking through it, it made perfect sense to me. At the time I was like frustrated that I hadn't thought this way before, because it's completely opposite as a leader how I was thinking. I was thinking, okay, these folks are, let's say somebody was in sales. Let's say they were very, very good at prospecting. So they were good at generating a lot of leads through prospecting, generating a lot of appointments and conversations through prospecting. And so they were good at like getting out, getting in front of people and getting interest from people. But let's say they were kind of weak at closing, right? Or no, a better example, they're kind of weak in the details. So like the paperwork that might go into closing a sale. So, got to get signatures and get everything lined up and buttoned up there. Well, what I would do in my previous years, I would think, this was my mindset. Okay, they're good at prospecting and getting the sales done. They're weak at the details, all the organizational things around it. So I had the mindset of, well, if they're good in that area of prospecting and, making sales, I don't need to really touch that. I can just let them keep doing what they do and not give that any attention. And I can work on coaching them to be more organized and be more put together when it comes to like the back end admin stuff that is required in the sales process. So I would go all in trying to create exercises and trackers and all these things to try to help develop that area a little bit better. Well, when you put so much attention on that weakness and require them to put so much attention on that, then the thing that they're actually strong at, the thing they bring to the table that's the strongest, starts to decline, right? They don't have as much time and energy to focus on that, because I, as their manager, am having them shift gears and focus on the things that, number one, they're naturally weak at. Number two, they don't get any satisfaction from trying to fix something they're weak at. They're weak at that for a reason, because they don't get satisfaction from that area. It's not every time they have everything organized and put together perfectly, it doesn't give them any satisfaction. They can take it or leave it. They're not excited about that type of work. But I was requiring them to spend a lot of time on that type of work. So what did that do? Well, a couple things, but the bad one was it declined morale horribly, right? Every time the boss comes around, he's talking about this thing I don't want to talk about, I don't want to deal with. I wish he would just help me figure out a way to delegate this part of the process so I can lean more in, right, to the things I love. So this book and this exercise really helped me reshape my mindset there to more of a mindset where, okay, and I could reflect on my own experience as well. Like, so in sales, the things I was good at, I was very creative. I was high energy, very positive, a very good prospector. I was very good at networking, marketing, making things happen, just generating a lot of stuff. Where I was horrible at was, and the example I just gave earlier was talking about myself. I was horrible at the details, right? So let's use crop insurance as a good example. That is a very detailed detailed product, right? It's a lot of nuances, a lot of variables, and it's easy to make errors when you're dealing with all the admin stuff that goes along with that. So what I was good at was presenting and selling the products, right? I did very well with that. All the farmers in the area, most of them did business with me. I was able to earn their business just through relationship building. I was great at that. Where I would struggle was all the back end stuff, all the paperwork that went along with it. I would be late in turning in reports. I'd forget to get forms signed and have to go back and redo a lot of stuff because of that. It's just a lot of things. I would occasionally miss deadlines that were not like sales deadlines, but paperwork deadlines. I had to get this report in by this date and all that stuff, which I, number one, hated it. To this day, I hate paperwork. I hate any of that stuff, but I was good at drumming up the activity that led to that stuff being required. So now I'm managing folks that have these same situations, right? Some of them were good at the paperwork, not so good at the sales. Some were good at sales, not so good at the detail stuff. And I was, again, trying to manage to their weaknesses and get them to improve on that. Well, a better move for morale purposes is to say, hey, and this is what I ultimately ended up doing. Sit down with them, really connect, and find out what brings them energy. Like, what in the job brings you the most energy? What excites you what can you go do? And leading up to it, you're excited to go do it. And when you get done doing it, you feel fulfilled. You love it. So let's say, using myself for an example, if I was managing myself, I would say to that, I just love finding people. I just love generating activity and networking and having conversations and earning an opportunity to sit down with people to present them a product and how I can add value to their business or whatever it is. And then ultimately have them trust me enough to put their business with me. And then we grow a relationship like that. That provides me the most value. I get to play the role of coach and advisor and help teach them how to use insurance to their advantage when it comes to certain things in business and how to structure it and all these things. I loved all that. So if I was managing myself, I'd sit down and I'd hear that in the conversation, make notes of it as a manager, as a leader. Then I'd ask, what are the things that you absolutely hate? The things that you go home and you dread waking up, the fact that, like, I've got to go do this tomorrow. What are the things that just make you in a bad mood when you have to do them? They suck all the energy out of you and you get no fulfillment. Well, for me, I would answer that: paperwork, details, all the back end admin type stuff. Cannot stand it. I'm not good at it. I'm not very organized with it. So as a leader, what I used to do, hearing that, well, let's focus on fixing all that. Let's not worry. You're already good in this area. Keep doing what you're doing, but let's focus on spending a lot of energy on that. So I'm asking yourself to spend more energy on the thing you just told me takes away your energy, and spend more time on the thing that sucks energy from you. Not good for morale. So what I shifted to was, I'd hear that, and then I would say, okay, here's what we're going to do. My first step is I'm going to try to figure out a way, given the staff that you have in place in your office, given the resources we have available to us through technology and admin help through our corporation, stuff like that. And we're going to figure out how to not completely wash your hands of having to focus on details, but try to delegate as much of that out as possible, right, to the team we have in place, and delegate it to the people that actually get energy from doing that type of work. So that's number one. We focus on that. And then from there, so now you got less time to spend on thinking about that time and energy sucking activity that you just said you don't like, and you're very weak at it, right? So we're going to figure out how to take more of that off your plate, so then you can transfer all of that energy and time that you have to put towards that and double down on the things that you're actually good at. So now, from a morale standpoint, if like the folks that worked for me as me as their leader, they're like, man, okay, so he's trying to find out a way to make me better at the things that I like doing and to give me more time to do the things that I like doing. And that's exactly what I was trying to do. The result was that was like in 2014, I started playing with this. And then going into 2015 and the next, I don't know, probably 5-7 years, everything shifted with my team. Everybody, it was, now there were times we had to all do things we didn't like to do because of various reasons. You know, we had to spend time and energy on those things that we didn't like to do. And some people didn't like sales, right? They were in sales but didn't like sales. Well, what do I do with those people? Maybe shift them to a different role in the organization or in on my team where they don't have to focus on that as much and they can do more of the, you know, the office type work that they like, that provides them more energy. But once I shifted this, morale went way up. I had a lot more buy-in from the team as far as just overall goals, team goals and stuff like that, because they knew that I was working my butt off trying to figure out how to put them in a position to do the things that they love doing most. So the results, they spoke for themselves. Everything, like all of our numbers, we, for the most part, hit all the big goals and all the incentive trips and stuff like that as a team once I shifted this mindset. So now I'm not in that world anymore, right? I'm in the corporate world, or I was in the corporate world. Now I am an entrepreneur with my own business, building a brand new team from scratch. You know, Bill and I at 608B Capital, we started this, just he and I. Now, you know, we brought Tim Blodgett along, and he's a part of the team. We've got Ted Hillenbrand, who's a big part of the team, and we're looking probably as we get later in this year and into next year to hire some more folks as we continue to scale. Well, what do? We find out we don't hire people or recruit people for with the mindset of, well, if they've got good values, we can teach them the rest. That's a good thing. Like, we want them to have good values, but we need to hire people for very specific roles that those roles fill them with energy, right? Not the other way around where those roles suck energy from them and they got to go home and vent all night and drink a 12-pack of beer just to drown the day away, right? That's not what we're looking for. That's not the culture we're trying to build. So the culture is going to be, if we need a salesperson, let's say we need somebody that is responsible for going out and finding borrowers and making loans, right? Let's say that's a position we need to find. Are we going to go recruit maybe, let's say, an accountant away from an accounting firm, somebody that is more into numbers and details and stuff like that? You know, we might be able to offer that person an attractive job that they would say, okay, I can go do that. But it's a sales job, and that person's not going to thrive in a role that doesn't give them energy. They're going to thrive in a role where they're maybe doing loan processing or data analytics and things like that, but not in a sales role. So we're going to recruit people, hire them that have the strengths to do the job, that match up with the job we need them to do, and then we're going to lean all into those strengths. We're not going to put them in situations where they're responsible for doing things that suck energy from them, and it's going to be the exact opposite. So this has really helped from a leadership standpoint over the years for me, and it's definitely going to help as Bill and I continue to grow this company. But it's helped me a tremendous amount, like reflecting myself on how I perform best, right? So, like I said, I love sales. I love people. I love being around people. Not all the time. Sometimes I want to just go in the woods and hunt or be at a beach and just be quiet. But for the most part, I am most fulfilled when I'm in rooms with people, when I'm at networking events, when I'm meeting with potential investors to see if they want to invest in our company, when I am meeting or on stage at events talking. I've loved that stuff since I was a kid. I love being the center of attention. I just always liked that. I mean, that's who I am. I love it. So for me, what I've had to do, especially now that I'm, you know, on my own as an entrepreneur, I've got to surround myself with people that aren't just like me, right? When it comes to in business, right? So Bill, for example, all those things I just listed, Bill does them. He can do them, but it doesn't fill him with the energy it does for me. I'm recording this 2 days before I head out to California in Napa Valley, and I'm going to a real estate mastermind event. Bill would love to come. He's not able to because of some schedule conflicts, but another piece of that is I'll be on stage and presenting and talking about a topic. So I get to do that and speak to a room of a couple hundred people. Love it. I am fired up about it. No anxiety, no nervousness, it's not a burden, not something I'm stressed about. I love those situations. I love going out to these conferences and all the social events and all the stuff we learn when we're in the workshops, and then me being a part of it, being able to be on stage. I love it. It gives me full energy. Well, Bill could not sit there and say he loves all of that, right? He would love to be at the event, but getting on stage and doing that, that doesn't fill him with energy. He doesn't get as excited as I do about it. So why would I partner with somebody that's exactly like me in that regard? It doesn't make sense, right? We'd both be doing those things very well and not doing the things that we need, that another part of the business, which is operational, detailed, being organized. Bill is phenomenal with that stuff. He is a phenomenal operator. He's phenomenal at, like, me taking all these big ideas and all these things that creatively come to my mind, taking them from me, I just spew them out there, and then he's an executor. So, like, I think of myself as a very good 0 to 1 person, right? Bill is a 1 and beyond person. He can take and operate it. And then I'm good at, once things get rolling, maybe analyzing them and seeing tweaks we can make to make them more, productive or whatever. And then he's a good executor of those ideas. So the point there is, for myself, I have been able to thrive in the last several years once I've leaned in on the things I'm stronger at and not putting myself in positions where I got to do a lot of the things that I absolutely hate, right? And not only hate them, I'm not good at them. I wouldn't be reliable enough. I would get it done, but I'd be miserable if I had to every day process loans and deal with attorneys and getting loan closing and wiring money and all that stuff. I don't, like, it stresses me out to think about that part of our business. So Bill enjoys those things. He's very good at them. We've hired someone that's very good at those things, very good with systems and processes. I'm not. I'm floating all over the place with ideas and chasing rabbits and stuff like that. So I create a lot of stuff, and then they're very good at executing it. So that's what I've learned about myself. I've learned that through this book, StrengthsFinder, and that exercise all those years ago, again, back to 2014, so we're 11 years ago now, it made me a better leader in that company. That's only evolved me even as a better leader in my own company. It will continue to be that way, but it has allowed me to really lean in on the things that I used to, well, like ADHD. I certainly have it. I've taken medicine on and off over the years for it, that my doctor has prescribed. Currently, I don't, because I've learned that there is some power. There's kind of some superpowers with this ADHD mind, right? There's a lot of weaknesses and a lot of complications, and I make life hard for a lot of people around me because I'm always just boom, 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 idea after idea. Can't slow down. Never have been able to. I got a son and a daughter that are just like it as well. I grew up for years thinking it was a weakness of mine, right? I was embarrassed by it. I couldn't, little things that most people don't even think are, don't even register them. They're burdens to me, right? Cleaning my truck out. It's a simple thing. Just pick the stuff up, take it inside. I don't like to do it, right? So my stuff piles up and, I procrastinate. I do all these things. And I used to think of it as like, God, what is wrong with me? I'm never going to be able to get ahead like this. Well, now I've completely shifted that, and I lean in on the things that are good about it, right? The things that are good about it is I may come up with 100 bad ideas, but I come up with so many ideas and thoughts and ways to do things and creativity and all that stuff that a lot of gold comes from it. Now that, again, a lot of chaos comes from it too, but a lot of stuff that otherwise wouldn't come out comes out of my brain because that's just how I am. And when I'm freely able to just think and brainstorm and meet people and talk to people and collaborate and do all these things, a lot of good stuff comes from it. Me leaning into how I am and all those that would be normally perceived as flaws, probably, it has somehow managed to get our fund to the point it is now, right? I've been able to raise a lot of capital just being who I am because I lean in on it and I don't have to spend time processing the loans, right? All the stuff I hate, Bill handles that. I go out and I just get to meet with investors and keep promoting what we're doing here and showing folks that, when I say here at 608B Capital, that we have a fantastic product to offer and we have a fantastic investment product to offer for passive investors. And I get to lean in on that. Love it. So I'll kind of wrap it up here now because I'm seeing the time and I do need to wrap things up. But StrengthsFinders, again, there's a couple different versions of it, so look it up. And I think, if you're in any type of leadership role, whether it's a coach, again, this can really be applied to coaching sports, especially, some kids are very, like, Steph Curry, greatest shooter in the NBA's history, in basketball, in the history of the league, greatest shooter. He's probably weak at posting up and down at the block and, playing low and trying to make moves down there against a 7-foot center, right? That would be a weakness of his. Rebounding is probably a weakness of his because he's short. He's 6'2". Average NBA player, probably 6'7". So he's relatively short for the game he plays. What's he strong at? Shooting and ball handling. So do they lean in and try to make him a better rebounder? Absolutely not. They don't put him in those positions at all. He'll grab a few long rebounds every now and then, but he's not down there in the post fighting for rebounds. They identify his strengths. He knows his strengths, and that's what he focuses on. He spends 99% of his time shooting basketballs and dribbling basketballs. Very, very, very little time learning how to rebound and be in position and boxing out and stuff like that. So that was just an analogy I wanted to make around sports. But if you coach, if you teach, if you are a leader of your organization or a manager within a company you work for, I highly encourage you checking that book and that program out. Number one, identifying what your strengths are and catering more to those and designing a situation where you can lean more into those rather than having to fix and spend so much time on your weaknesses. So that fix yourself first and then lead with that same style. Guarantee it will make you and your teams more productive, whether it be athletic teams or business or whatever it is, but it will make folks more productive. But the biggest thing is morale. When people can lean into and they have the support of their leaders to lean into the things that bring them energy, they're going to be happier on the job. When people are happier, they're more productive. When they're more productive, everybody wins. So think about it. Go check that book out. That'll wrap up another week of Burning the Ships, and we will talk to you guys next week. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Burning the Ships. I want to give a special thanks to our sponsor, 608B Capital, helping real estate investors secure fast, reliable funding to fuel their boldest moves. If you're ready to take your investing to the next level, visit 608bcapital.com to learn more. If you found value in today's episode, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. Your feedback not only helps us improve, but it also helps us reach more people who are ready to burn the ships and commit fully to their goals. And don't forget to share the episode with someone who needs that extra push to take bold action. I'll leave you with this. Burning the ships isn't just about removing the option to retreat. It's about unlocking the courage to charge forward. No matter the odds, the past is behind you and the future is yours to conquer. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time on Burning the Ships.